Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be doing my pick'em bracket for OWCS Champions Clash that is happening this weekend. And we are here on a website here. This is a project made by GAT. I will have a link to it in the description. It is an unofficial pick'ems website, but it's very well made, very well done, and is really cool to see. So it will be linked in the description for you to check out if you want to see it for yourself. But with that out of the way, let's jump in and, of course, do my bracket and pick the games, pick the teams I think will do well and how I think it's going to go. So you can see the 8 teams here, the 4 matchups we have. To start, we have Team Falcons versus Alcadia, Virtus Pro versus Once Again, Nightmare versus Team CC, and Crazy Raccoon versus Space Station Gaming. So those are our 8 teams and our 4 matchups. So let's just go in. We're just going to kind of go through. I have already made an initial bracket before I found this pick'em, so I'll try to not take too long to fill this out. But let's go. So we're going to start with the easy games, of course. Round 1. We do Team Falcons taking on Alcadia. This should be a pretty easy win for Team Falcons. Also noted best of 3 for this first round of games. Everything else best of 5, but just this first set of games is a best of 3. Team Falcons, of course, won the Korea tournament, and Asia, I guess. Did they win Korea? I don't actually remember if they won Korea. I know they won Asia, but they won Asia, and they're going up against the number 2 team out of EMEA. It should be relatively easy. It should be a pretty easy win for Team Falcons there. They've just been so good so far this year. I don't know if the meta is going to be the best meta for them, but it certainly looks like they're going to be easily a top 2 to 3 team in this tournament, and we'll talk about why I'm saying 3. But most likely they're going to be a grand finalist. It's not really up for debate. The next game is the one that I think is the most interesting here in this first round, and that is Virtus Pro taking on Once Again. Virtus Pro, of course, the top team coming out of EMEA. Once Again, the top team coming out of China. I don't love the way this bracket was done. I don't love the idea of having the NA and EMEA teams on the same side of the bracket, but I did not create the bracket, so that is not my fault. But this to me is a very interesting game, because we did, of course, just see Virtus Pro compete in Soup Cup, where they went up against a number of Korean teams. Most notably, they played Wei and, of course, T1, the 2 teams that they went up against. They beat Wei pretty convincingly and then lost in the finals to T1, which tells you that they're really not at the same level as some of the teams in Korea that we're seeing. You know, those are the 4th and 6th best teams from Korea last stage. And so there's reason to think this Virtus Pro team is looking pretty good and could do well, but they're going up against a juggernaut of a roster in Once Again. Now, we haven't seen Once Again compete much since China left Overwatch. It only just recently came back. They did play in EWC last year. They played in the World Cup, Overwatch World Cup in 2023, and of course they were the Hangzhou Spark in the 2023 Overwatch League season. And so we've seen them a bit, and they've had their moments, but they haven't been competing as much over the past year. So this is one of those games that's kind of an interesting one to look at based on where teams are right now. I ultimately think that Once Again should be favored to win this game. I think it'll be pretty close. I think it'll probably be like a 2-1 for Once Again. I think when you have the flexibility that a team like Once Again has, you can kind of keep things the way you want them to. But Virtus Pro has played very well. A Sigma comp, for example, something that Once Again can do pretty well with Ligue on their roster. But that's kind of the bread and butter of Virtus Pro. This is an interesting map pool. It's kind of dive favored, but not fully. There's no Gibraltar, for example. That's like the big dive map, and that's not in the pool, so you won't be seeing that. So it'll be interesting to see kind of what look we get. But right now, I would favor Once Again over Virtus Pro very slightly. I think that'll be the best game here in round 1. I think they should be the team that takes it away. Next is Nightmare vs. Team CC. This is a game that a lot of people think is going to be a pretty one-sided affair. A lot of people don't think Team CC is a particularly strong roster. I've seen a lot of people say that they think this is the worst team competing here in the Champions Clash, that the second team out of China is not going to be nearly as good. They could be right. I think Team CC was okay in China. I think that they got lucky getting a reverse sweep win over Rock Esports, who I think were the actual second best team in China, which then basically just meant they didn't have to worry about playing once again until the finals in a single elimination bracket, so they got very lucky there. Nightmare, a little more battle tested. We did just see them competing in Soup Cup. Not very well. Did not go well for them. They did not win a single map in the tournament. So I think part of the thing with Nightmare right now is, we just saw Team CC have a decent run in China, and then we saw Nightmare do really poorly in Soup Cup against some good Korean competition. And I think there is a bit of a thing in my brain where I'm thinking, well, Nightmare just looked terrible in that tournament. There's no way we can expect them to have a good result here going into this tournament. But I think they should be fine. I think it'll probably be close. I think they might lose a map. But I think Team CC right now it doesn't look like the juggernaut that would be able to really kind of beat the quote-unquote best team in North America. And so I would give credit to Nightmare for this one. I think they should be the team that takes that one away. And then, of course, we have Crazy Raccoon versus Space Station Gaming. I think Crazy Raccoon should win that one pretty convincingly. I think SSG is good. I think they are obviously a solid roster. We've seen them do pretty well in North America. They have some of the best talent in North America on this roster, with a couple of Korean imports as well. So it's not absurd to think that this team has the potential to, get a pretty good win going. But right now, I think they just don't look to be the team that's going to have that huge win and knock off Crazy Raccoon. Like, I think Crazy Raccoon is very, very easily one of the two best teams in this tournament. I think they're going to be doing very, very well. So I think, as much as I like SSG, I don't think they're going to win this game. So let's finish up with this upper bracket for a second here, and then we'll move on to the lower bracket. So next we would have Team Falcons versus once again. This to me is a very interesting game because I think this one really comes down to the meta. This is one of those games where, to me, Team Falcons is favored to win this game in any rush meta, any really, really, really strong rush meta, even like a poke meta. I think they're favored to win. If this meta is dive heavy, which, looking at the meta from Soup Cup, and you can only learn so much because obviously the best teams are not competing in that. And we've seen in the past how it comes down to these tournaments and the teams just play Malga even when it's not the best comp you can play. They're just so comfortable with it, and it's a thing that they understand well enough, and they understand the intricacies of the comp. It's really easy for them to do it. That obviously has had a huge impact on how Team Falcons has succeeded because they are a really good Malga team, and they can play Malga at a very high level. But in Soup Cup, there was a lot of Hazard, there was a lot of Winston getting played, there was some Marisa, some Sigma, stuff like that. There was definitely a variety. I really didn't see any Malga. I don't know if any Malga was played, but from when I watched, I didn't see any Malga. So a hero pool like that, if teams can play stuff like Winston, obviously there's hero bans, and if you're Team Falcons, you have very, very good reason to try to prevent, once again, from playing Winston as much as possible. But if once again can force dive as much as possible and play as many dive comps as possible, if the map pool favors those dive maps, once again should really have a very good chance at taking maps off of Team Falcons, pushing them the distance. This Team Falcons roster is basically the same team that was Team South Korea in the World Cup in 2023. The same Team Korea that lost to China, which is basically just this once again roster. They also, Team Falcons, lost to once again in EWC last year. So there is precedent for, once again, to win this game. And even if you want to go back to 2023 Overwatch League, where a good chunk of this Team Falcons core, not all of it, but a good chunk of the core, handful of the players, I guess, it's really on the support line, once again beat that Atlanta Reign roster that was really, really good, a really good, like, high-end Korean roster. There is precedent here for, once again, to win this game, but I think it fully depends on the meta. I think it depends on what we get. If it is a dive-heavy meta, absolutely, once again, should be able to win this game. And that's why I think it'll be close no matter what. But I have to go with Team Falcons. They've been very good this year. They look really, really good. I think the meta is open enough that they can play a number of things to work in their favor. If they have to play a Junker Queen comp or Ram comp or something like that, they can do that. I don't think we're going to see any Junker Queen, but the point is, I think they can force comps like that and they can win in those matchups in a way that you are just not going to most likely get from, once again, because that isn't the style of play they want to favor. And so I have to favor what we've seen from Team Falcons so far, but I do think it'll be pretty close. I don't think it's like a super dominant, over-the-top, like Team Falcons is just leaps and bounds better. I don't think that's the case. I really think this one's going to come down to what kind of meta picks you can force and make and how you can adjust. I think this is a long series. I think this is a 5-mapper. I really do. I wouldn't be shocked if it was a 3-0 on either side. If it's a really hard dive meta, I wouldn't be shocked if, once again, just rolls. If it's a really hard, like, Mauga rush meta that they managed to get going, yeah, Team Falcons probably stomps. But I think there's enough of a diverse meta here that you can make those picks and you can have kind of good map picks to kind of favor what you want to play. So I think it'll be pretty close. But Team Falcons, I think, right now I just can't pick against them until I've seen it happen, in a more serious spot. Then we'd, of course, have Nightmare versus Crazy Raccoon. I think Crazy Raccoon easily wins this game. Nightmare's a young, scrappy team. They really represent a lot of what's great about North American Overwatch. But Crazy Raccoon is literally some of the best, maybe the best roster that's ever been assembled that isn't Team Falcons. Like, this might be the two greatest Overwatch rosters ever assembled between Falcons and Crazy Raccoon. And Nightmare is a very good North American roster. That's really the extent of where you can go with that. That's just kind of the way things are. And that's what I think is working in Crazy Raccoon's favor the most in this series. Just how much better they are as a team, right? Like, everyone's going to pick this game to go this way. This is not a knock on Nightmare. I just think Crazy Raccoon is that good. It's hard to pick against them in general, but especially in this game. So this would, of course, set up the upper bracket final between Team Falcons and Crazy Raccoon. It's going to be close. It always is. I'm going to immediately bump it up to 2-2 because you know it's going to be a close series. It almost always is. This is the hardest game to pick, truly, because it's a coin flip every time. It's a 50-50 on what's going to happen. The meta can go one way. We don't know what the meta fully is going to be. Like I said, I think we're going to be seeing a lot of stuff like Hazard and Winston and Orisa. Like I said, I don't think it's going to be a Mauga meta, which to me is the key point to make here. If this were a Mauga meta, if it seemed very likely that we were getting a lot of Mauga, then I would easily pick Team Falcons to win this and the grand finals, no questions asked. They just look better in those comps. They look way better in that meta. But we don't have reason to think that that is what we are getting. And so I'm not going to sit here and say this is a very easy win for Team Falcons. If it is as much Winston as I think we're going to get, and that's what I saw quite a bit of, the tank I saw the most when I was looking at Soup Cup was Hazard. It was a lot of Hazard. I think Hazard is a very versatile tank. He can do a lot of things. I think Crazy Raccoon are in a better position to succeed in a Hazard meta. I think their team is better equipped for the kinds of comps that you typically play with Hazard. He is a bit more dive heavy. He's not Winston or Diva, or Wrecking Ball in that way, but those are the kinds of heroes that you can play more, I think, in this meta and with this hero pool, with the exception of a map like Circuit Royale and Junker. Like, Escort is, I think, the worst spot for dive in this hero pool. It's a lot of, like, long-range sight lines, a lot of hit scan play, which I do actually think does favor Crazy Raccoon quite a lot. I think they're a little bit better in those hit scan type comps. If Sojourn's really good in this meta as well, which I think she might be. That's also a good, like, a boon for a team like Once Again as well. But I think Crazy Raccoon right now, to me, feels like the slightly better team in this meta. I don't know exactly what the meta is going to be. Right now, I feel like they are in a slightly better position. They were good all year, up until the Malga meta kind of reemerged in the finals. So who knows? But I'm going to say Crazy Raccoon right now takes the upper bracket game, which means, probably Team Falcons wins in the grand finals because that's the way things have been going. But let's just go. Let's finish the bracket first before we make that decision. So now we go down to the lower bracket. I'm not doing these games in order, obviously. The entire left side of this column is happening day 1. Then you got day 2, and then you got day 3. But I like to do the bracket this way. I think it's more fun to picture it this way. So Virtus Pro versus Alcatia. Huge game here. Alcatia really the only team in EMEA that really pushed Virtus Pro around a little bit. Virtus Pro dominated all of EMEA all year. Didn't lose a single game. In the regular season, lost like 3 maps. 2 of them were to Alcatia. And then in the playoffs, I think they lost another like 3 or 4. And most of those, again, were to Alcatia. So this is a team that is good against Virtus Pro, but they have not been able to go over the hump and take them down. I think Virtus Pro wins this one, probably like a 3-1, maybe a 3-2. I really like Virtus Pro. I think they're really, really good. I also would love to see them win because I want to see Virtus Pro and Nightmare play in round 2. I think that's a really awesome game to see. The kind of NA versus EMEA matchup there would be awesome to see. We didn't get to see it in Soup Cup, but maybe we'll get to see it here because they are, if this happens, going to be on the same side of the bracket, which is wild to see, if I'm being honest with you. So that's fun. Then you got Team CC versus Space Station Gaming. I think SSG wins this one. I know I said Nightmare versus Team CC could be pretty close. I like SSG more, I think. I think Nightmare had a very good run in that NA tournament. I think that they won it fairly. Obviously, like, they won because they played well and the meta favored them and they looked very good. I think SSG's probably a better team that just wasn't necessarily playing the best for themselves. But this is the kind of team that I trust to do more in a meta like this, in a stage like this. Now, yes, it is in China, which maybe hurts a little bit more. Maybe your play takes a bit of a hit, but I don't think NA is going to be totally washed out of this tournament. I think they're going to at least do a little bit in this tournament. I don't think they're going to go super far, but I think they'll at least get this far. And we'll see quite a good show from them against some of the lower end opposition here in this tournament. Then this would have set up our Virtus Pro versus Nightmare game. I'm going to say a pretty convincing 3-0 win for Virtus Pro. I think that what I learned from the Super Cup really is that Virtus Pro is good. On a global stage, they're pretty good. They're competitive. They can beat, a team that it is a little bit different, of course, with the Wei roster that got 4th in Korea and in the Asia main event. And the version of the team now, of course, Who Are You has left and is now on Gen G. But the majority of the team is pretty much the same. And Virtus Pro won that game very convincingly. Yes, they both lost to T1. Neither of them took a map off T1. But Nightmare also didn't take a map off of Wei. Now, what do you learn? Is there stuff that goes into being in Korea when you're a roster not made up of Korean players? I'm sure that impacts you somewhat. Virtus Pro at least has a couple of Korean players on the roster that can kind of help a little bit with that kind of support. But to me, this is really what I've seen from Virtus Pro, is just they've been consistently one of the better teams in the world. They've been the best team in the West, I think. I think Soup Cup for me is the thing that really solidified it. As good as they've been, I think they really are the team to beat coming out of the West. And I think they take it off a Nightmare, and I think it's pretty convincing. Nightmare might take a map. I think they're not a bad team by any means. But Virtus Pro very much impressed me against Wei, and I think that they should be viewed as a serious contender. Nightmare did not look that good, and it's hard for me to pick against the team that actually made it to the finals in Korea. but that's pretty good. Then we get Once Again versus Space Station, which incredible game. I think it's probably pretty close, maybe a 3-2. I favor Once Again in this one. I think the home crowd, I think, is really good. This is a team also, once again, like, to be fair, they are a really good tournament team. They always do well. Now, they didn't do great in the EWC. I will give you that. But, like, World Cup, of course, they got second. They were a map away from winning the whole thing, which is brutal. You know, in the 2023 playoffs, they did really, really well. The 2022 playoffs, so the core is a little bit different now. They did really, really well. They are a team that when they make the playoffs, they do really, really well. When they're in tournaments, they do really, really well. They have always been a very good performing tournament team. I think when you're in front of your home crowd as well, and the crowd is absolutely going to be on the side of these players, this team is going to have the crowd buff, you know, the crowd boost. They are going to have the fans. I think they're a really good LAN team. They have played well in LAN pretty much every time they've done it. And so I favor them a lot in this game. I think Space Station's a very good team. I think they'll be able to compete. I think that there is a bit of flexibility they have. They have a really good DPS duo as well, which is true of both teams, of course. Shy Leaves is a really good duo as well, and once again, but I think Sugar Free and Seeker are also a very solid duo and a very strong duo. And, you know, Kellen versus Gushui can be some great duels there. But I just think, once again, especially that support line, once again, is phenomenal. And I think they get the edge there. And I think they even have the edge on DPS, which is saying a lot because, you know, Space Station does have a world-class DPS duo. But man, is once again just incredible. And I think they're going to be able to take this one. You know, I think Sojourn, I think Shy is the best Sojourn in the world. I think he's the most entertaining Sojourn. I think he understands the hero the best. And for that reason, among others, of course, but that is one of the reasons why I really like what we've seen from them. And I think they take this one. I think it'll be close, though, because I respect Space Station a lot. But once again, I think takes this one. And I think they're going to take it again against Virtus Pro. I think it'll be close once again. Pun not intended. But I really like what they've done. I think they've been a very, very solid team. I really like this core. I also think it's the kind of thing, for me, I think the deeper into the tournament that once again gets, the more dangerous they become. Because they've had, this is the kind of thing where I feel like once again is the exception to the rule in China. Where in China you have a lot of teams that have not competed for a long time, haven't been able to play the game for a long time, that are improving and getting to the point where they're able to compete at a global stage. And it's going to take time to grow the scene. Whereas once again is a team that just needs to get back into form. They are quickly going to be better. So like I think once again in stage 2 of China, they already dominated stage 1 of China. They might be even better in stage 2 because I think there's way more, you know, they didn't drop as far as a lot of these other teams did in the break. And they're going to be competing now globally. They're going to be going against 2 of the best teams in the world with Team Falcons and Crazy Raccoon. They're getting scrim time against North America and EMEA teams. So I think once again is going to look really, really, really good as we go forward. I think it's really hard to pick against them here. And they're also a team, like I said, I have them 3-2, 3-2, a 2-1 over Virtus Pro in the upper bracket. They are a team that consistently, historically, has had these close, scrappy games, and they pull them out in the end. They are a team that does not give up. They are a team that kind of don't get boomed either. They are a really, really good team. It just kind of, I mean, World Cup, that was probably a booming. I won't lie. That one was pretty bad. But they're really, really good at just kind of keeping their composure and staying in games. And they have so much talent that they can easily do that. So it's hard to know exactly what's going on. I really think that they are the 3rd best team in the world right now, or at least among the 3 best teams in the world. But it's hard for me right now to say for sure that they're going to destroy a team like Virtus Pro or SSG, because we haven't seen them play on a global stage in a while. And when they played at EWC last year, they didn't look amazing. They beat Falcons, but they lost some teams that you would kind of not expect them to lose to. And so it's hard to really kind of say for certain where they are. But I think they've had a lot more time to improve now that they've had more scrim time and whatnot. So I think they're going to be okay. And this, of course, sets up another Team Falcons versus once again match in the lower bracket final. This one's tough, honestly. because it really is, once again, like meta dependent, and there is going to be a lot of them. My heart really wants to pick once again, all right? But I have to go Team Falcons. Like, I can't pick against Team Falcons until it actually happens. I think Team Falcons is more likely to lose the upper bracket game than the lower bracket game. I will say that much. Team Falcons is such a good team in the lower bracket. They've consistently done well, even if they lose a game. Kind of, I mean, they've lost to Crazy Raccoon. It's the only team they've lost to in these international tournaments outside of EWC. So for me, it's very difficult to pick against the two best teams in Korea. But I do think, once again, is the only other team in this tournament outside of the two Korean teams that can win. I truly believe they have what it takes to win. They are a team that's so funny because they could lose round 1 to Virtus Pro, and then they'd probably make it to the finals. I think if they drop to the lower bracket, I don't see them getting any lower than 4th, because I think they're better than Nightmare, they're better than OWCS. I think they're definitely better than Team CC. But there is a world where they could lose to SSG, Virtus Pro, Team Falcons, Crazy Raccoon. Like, there's a world they could be like the 5th best team in this tournament. Or there's a world where they're top 3, a map away from making it to the finals, or they are the best team in the world. Their floor is very low. Their ceiling is very, very high. Crazy Raccoon, Team Falcons, their floor is very high, and their ceiling is even higher. So that's the concern I have with kind of picking once again in some of these games. And so for me, the finals is going to be Crazy Raccoon versus Team Falcons. I think it's going to be a banger. I think it's going to go the distance. I think it's going to come down to meta picks. It's going to come down to what you can kind of do at the end of the day. But I'm feeling this is a Crazy Raccoon tournament. I think they're going to get back to form just like they kind of did last year. They go in, usually the team that wins Asia, which this wasn't true last year with Stockholm, but usually there's a bit of a change. Crazy Raccoon has had time to adjust and adapt. I think the meta has moved away from Mauga a lot more, and I think when it's not Mauga-based rush comps, I really don't think Team Falcons has looked like the better team. I think, generally speaking, Crazy Raccoon has been better in more metas. Team Falcons just gotten lucky and gotten the metas they needed to look good a couple of times. You think about last year, at the end of the year, Crazy Raccoon was dominating everybody. Stage 2 Korea wasn't even a remotely close stage, and then Mauga meta happened, and all of a sudden Team Falcons is the better team, right? I think if it's not a Mauga meta, which it doesn't seem like it's going to be, there's no reason to pick against Crazy Raccoon. I think they've been that good, and I really think that they are the team that should be favored to win this tournament. It'll be close, I think. It always is, except for when it's Mauga meta. But otherwise, it's very, very close. And I think Crazy Raccoon have evolved a lot as a team to be able to play a more kind of mixed look. They don't have to just play dive now to beat Team Falcons. They can compete with Team Falcons on those rush comps to the point where I think they should be able to win this tournament. I think they are very good. I think they're a very strong team, and I think this is their tournament to win this time around. So there we go. That's my bracket. Those are my picks. Those are my thoughts. Let me know in the comments down below who you think is going to win the Champions Clash. Do you think, once again, is going to get the hometown buff and win the whole tournament? Or are you still rolling with one of the Korean powerhouses? Or are you going somewhere crazy? You think Virtus Pro's got it? You think SSG or Nightmare? Or even OWCS or Team CC? Like, who? I don't know. Everyone has their own picks, their own picks, and their own choices. I don't know. So let me know in the comments down below what you think of this tournament, who you think is going to win. And if you enjoyed this video and want more like it in the future, consider liking and subscribing, of course, as your support is greatly appreciated. But that is going to be all for me for today. Thank you all once again. Hope you're all staying safe and staying healthy. And until next time, bye-bye.